So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining, we are live at the Royal Cayman Police headquarters here in town, where a press conference is expected to begin shortly. I'm Andrew Harris. Of course, there are several other members of the media here. This is the second fatal shooting in 3 days. Of course, Police Commissioner Derek Byrne, during a previous press conference on Wednesday or Tuesday afternoon, stated that he would be deploying more armed patrol in an attempt to find out more about the organized crime from Georgetown Central. Of course, the body of the deceased individual was found on West Bay Road in the vicinity of White Sand Beach. That, of course, is just north of the Kimpton Hotel, where he was found unresponsive with multiple gunshot wounds.
Hey, Kevin. Kevin, can you hear me?
Yeah.
See if you can grab me the links, please. For some reason.
Yeah, I'm doing that now.
Okay. My WhatsApp on the PC is just like crawling. It's so ridiculous. Maybe this new WhatsApp. Can you, no, send it to me in the phone. Can you send it on WhatsApp? I'm trying to grab it on the phone is what I'm trying to do.
For those who are just joining us, we are live at the Royal Cayman Police Service headquarters on Shedden Road, where we are awaiting a live update from police on the second fatal shooting in 3 days. We expect the press conference to start shortly.
It's quite hot. Okay, so good afternoon, members of the media, and thank you for joining us here for our preliminary press briefing on the murder that occurred in the early hours of this morning. just off the West Bay Road. So I have Deputy Commissioner Kurt Walton, Security and Operations, Policing Operations, and Detective Superintendent Peter Lansdowne. And just some preliminary information on the murder that occurred. So it's shortly after 1:30 a.m. this morning, which is Wednesday, the 28th of April, police and emergency services were dispatched by the 911 Communications Centre to a report of a shooting incident in an isolated location on the beach, approximately 150 metres down Old West Bay Road, west of the Yacht Club roundabout. On arriving at the scene, police located a 21-year-old male lying unresponsive on the ground with obvious gunshot wounds to the head and at least 2 and possibly up to 6 shots fired from what we can see from our preliminary examinations. Emergency services attended the location and the man was transported to the Cayman Islands Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. We cordoned off the scene and immediately commenced a murder investigation with a senior investigating officer appointed. Some gun casings were found at the scene, and we believe a number of shots were fired. A vehicle that has been connected to the deceased was located about a mile from the scene of the shooting on the beach, and that was located at Swift Lane next to Cemetery Beach. That is a green, blue, dark-coloured Honda CR-V motor vehicle, and that was found abandoned and recovered by police and is now seized and will be subject to forensic examination. And similar to our last or our most recent shooting, we're appealing to anyone in the community with information to come forward to assist us. I'll provide some more information in a minute that may assist, but anyone that has any information is asked to contact the incident room, 649-2930. We'll give out the numbers through our media department and shortly. There is an anonymous tips line. You can provide information directly to the RCIPS via our confidential tip line at 949-7777 or on our website. And also Crime Stoppers is available online for any person who would feel more comfortable providing information to the police. Some of the information that might assist, we have appointed a liaison officer to the family of the deceased, and they have given us permission to release the identity of the deceased. And the deceased is a 21-year-old male, Cale Dimitri Thomas. Dimitri Thomas, 21 years of age, from the Georgetown area. We do know that he left his home, or left the home of a relative at around 11 p.m. last night to go to a pre-arranged meeting, most likely at this location off the old West Bay Road, which is an isolated area of beach, to meet 2 persons. And the preliminary indications are that as soon as he arrived at the scene, he was shot and fatally injured, with the persons leaving the scene and him obviously found deceased at the scene, with his car located about 1 mile away. And I think the best location or landmark for that is directly opposite the fire station on the old West Bay Road, for people that would kind of understand. So what would be important is anyone that was out and about in the early hours of this morning or late last night that would have seen any cars or any person acting suspiciously in the vicinity of the old West Bay Road, any cars moving around, anyone that might have any information. And then the wider appeal to the community, as we have made only in the last number of days, there are guns in the community, there are persons in the community that have information. This is becoming a kind of an intolerable situation with people being shot and murdered. This is a young man, a married man with at least one young child. We believe all the persons involved, the deceased and the suspects, are known to each other, in fact, well known to each other. And as I indicated, it was, our indications are that it was a pre-arranged meeting that the deceased was traveling to and knew he was going to meeting these 2 males. And then whatever happened at the scene, he was shot multiple times, at least twice in the head and possibly up to 6. That's what we have at the moment. Our appeal then is for as much information as we can get from the community to assist us with this investigation and with, indeed, with the wider investigations that are occurring over the last number of weeks, including the murder that occurred last Monday night on Eastern Avenue. At this stage, I think we can invite questions from the media.
I think, Commissioner, the burning question, the elephant in the room here is this is an appeal for people to come forward. But the deceased is or was the star witness in not one but two very high profile trials. How can the police ask for the public to come forward with information if informants cannot be secured after the fact? Case in point, his death.
So I think the question is quite pointed, and I'm very restricted in what I can say, other than that the deceased was known to the police, and that's as much as I'm going to say about the deceased at the moment, and nothing further.
Well,
Separate from that, though, Commissioner, regardless of the deceased's history or past, what assurances can you provide to the public that if they come forward with information, they will not end up in a similar fate?
Yeah, I believe we worked well with the deceased, and I think I've made the point there clearly. I highlighted at the start, the deceased knew who he was going to meet. The circumstances of that are subject of an investigation. We are at the preliminary stages. We're 12 hours into an investigation, and after that, I think again has to be on the murder. Has to be on the murder and the appeal for assistance to help us to investigate this murder, remove the guns from the street. This, again, I go back to our earlier press briefing, is confined to a small group of people engaged in criminal activity, serious criminal activity, resulting in fatalities in the Cayman Islands, one last Monday night and one in the early hours of this morning. And I don't think it's appropriate to go into the history of the deceased. Sorry, you're asking me to
speak a little louder. I don't have the fancy eye care.
I'm mic in front of me, and
that's fine.
Yeah.
If I can add on, Joe, we do have robust systems and mechanisms in place to protect witnesses. We can, it's been established, we can protect witnesses. If people comply with our directions and do what we say in general, then we can keep people safe. So I would encourage people to come forward, do the right thing, listen to our advice and our guidance, which we've learned over a number of years, and we can keep people safe and we can prosecute these people. So we will do that if people listen to us and do what we tell them.
It's perhaps too early to say this, but is there any connection between this incident and what happened a couple of days ago?
So yeah, good question. Thank you. So some of the same persons involved, or some of the same group, at least we believe involved, but not directly related to the incident on Monday night. But again, it's this group of people that I mentioned earlier in the week that we believe we have identified and that we are actively seeking. And I mentioned our additional patrols for our firearms response unit that are out on our crime task force actively seeking these persons. One person was arrested last night by us and is currently in custody, and that investigation is ongoing and will take its course. So one of the persons of the gang has been arrested, and we actively seek other members of the group.
Commissioner, last week, I'll give way to my colleague.
Finish your question.
Thanks, Andy. Earlier this week, you stated that the best information that your officers have suggests a small group of about 6 individuals who are committing these incidents. If your officers know these individuals, why not arrest them and take them off the streets? What's stopping you?
I think I made this very clear. If I could locate them, I would arrest them. And I've said just only moments ago, we've arrested one of them last night, working with the community. I mentioned in the earlier press briefing about people harboring and providing safe passage. These people are from the community, live in the community, and are traveling through the community. And this is where we urgently seek assistance from the community to stop them committing further crimes. There are firearms in the community. There is information in the community. I and my colleagues at all levels understand the concerns people have about becoming involved, providing information. We will do what needs to be done to protect witnesses that come forward. That's an assurance, and the detective superintendent has spoken about it. But the urgent appeal remains, we need the assistance of the community to find out where these people are and where these guns are before more murders are committed and more innocent people are put in danger.
Commissioner, I know you said you didn't want to say anything about Kane's part in the trials, but are you able to confirm that he was still on licence from his own conviction?
I'm absolutely not going down to do anything with the deceased other than I'm dealing with the deceased and his family at the moment, and I'm dealing with the murder that occurred in the early hours of this morning. He is the victim, and I don't think that I need to deal with any of the past at this particular
So
time.
you don't believe that's the motive, or you don't want to say?
I can't say at the moment. These are obviously lines
Was
of
he robbed?
inquiries. Pardon?
Was he robbed, do you think? Was
No
anything taken?
indication. No indication that he was robbed. He knew he was going to a meeting. He knew he was meeting particular individuals, and it seems that very shortly after arriving at the scene, he was shot and fatally injured. And I mentioned the seriousness of the type of incident we're dealing with: shot in the head on at least 2 occasions, and possibly up to 6.
Could you just clarify for us, you mentioned there was an arrest last night. I don't want there to be any confusion on the front. This is related to a series of incidents that's been going on?
Yes,
last
absolutely, yeah. And one of them would relate in particular to the incident that occurred on Monday night, which was the fatal shooting of Mr. Elliott.
Oh, sorry, so the arrest you made, I thought you meant it was after this murder. It wasn't, it was after. It was last night before this murder and in relation to the barbecue.
Is there any sort of reward being offered? Someone is asking.
We're certainly looking at that. We have access to Crime Stoppers, and we have at least one person, member of the community, that came forward yesterday offering significant money to assist us. But at the moment, we're looking at our internal resources and our communications with the community, our liaison that we've established. And then we will certainly look at that option. If it becomes something that would assist us, we would be very open to using a reward system to seek assistance. We have in the past tried to use rewards and it hasn't been successful, but it does remain a very viable option. And as I said, one prominent member of the community at least has come forward, and we do have access to Crime Stopper funds to assist us.
Commissioner, these violent incidences seem to be curtailed to either the members who are known to each other, which appears to be the case of Mr. Thomas, and in areas that are known to be places of illegal activity. Case in point, the complex that is known to police where Mr. Elliott was shot and killed. The incident, so I guess in a roundabout way of asking, people are pretty much still safe despite the alarming 2 deaths in 3 days, just so long as it perhaps for the people who are carrying about illicit activities that might need to worry, as opposed to people who are going about their everyday business.
So I'm going to re-stress this again, so there's no misunderstanding. This is a small group of people all known to each other. And the murder that occurred on Monday night is an area that was previously known to us. I highlighted that. This morning's incident is an isolated area on the beach off the old West Bay Road. And I made the point that the deceased was aware he was traveling to a meeting to meet 2 persons. We're aware of that. So that is not an area that's known to us. It's known as social, for social activity. So that's not an area that we're monitoring or looking at. It seems that was an agreed location. It's pretty isolated and where it was or where it is located. So there's nothing to suggest that there's anything dubious going on at that location other than it's an agreed location to me. Or was an agreed location.
We've had a number of people inquiring about CCTV footage from the first incident, whether or not we can expect for that to be released.
So the first thing we would do in any normal investigation is we will review that ourselves and see what we can obtain. And then when we feel we need assistance and we need to release that information, but it's not something we ordinarily do. We obviously have to watch the evidence chain, which is one of our restrictions in terms of if we have avenues that we can inquire into ourselves.
Right.
Where we need the public's assistance is I explained the other night that 8:08 p.m. 2 persons run from the scene. They run up to McField Square, and after that they're not seen. Where did they go? How did they leave the scene? We don't have CCTV footage on that at the moment. But we are gathering some very good evidence of what occurred at the scene using private CCTV. And our team in RCA, the detective superintendent, are working very hard to identify what they can identify from that. And undoubtedly, we will seek further assistance from the community. But we must continue with our own investigations internally and explore to the fullest extent possible what we can explore. And then as we find ourselves restricted, then we seek the help of the public. But you cannot, in a criminal investigation, throw open the doors of the investigation to the community. We want the assistance of the community. This is the dilemma we have, the push-pull factor. I want as much assistance as I can get, but it must be allowed, and the team must be allowed to conduct their investigations. And we must be able to link this series of investigations, and we must follow the rules of evidence. We must, we're very restricted, and we want to be very responsible about how we go about our business to explain that I've seen that people would prefer to see CCTV footage. It's not appropriate at this time to be releasing CCTV footage, but that may become an issue further into the investigation.
Right. In relation to, sorry, Wendy, in relation to the other persons of interest, people are wondering if a sort of a wanted poster, Cayman's top 5 or 6 or many they are, wanted might be helpful to the community to know who you're actually looking for.
Again, so look, we're looking at that very, very carefully. We believe we're quite satisfied. We know the group. We're quite satisfied for a number of sources. And it's not that nobody in the community is working with us. Some people are working with us, but there's a lot more people we believe that for one reason or another could assist us in more detail. And the idea then is, again, I go back to the point, is we have to be allowed to conduct our investigations. When we find ourselves that we can't progress it any further, then we move into the stage of seeking community assistance and maybe speaking about the identity of the person sought. But again, we've got to be very careful about the information that's released, because we have criminal investigations to progress. We have files to submit to the Director of Public Prosecutions, and then into the future we have issues around trial and prosecution and fair procedures.
Commissioner, can I ask you just to comment on what you feel the chain of events might have been? Because you say that Kyle was obviously must have received a call or whatever and gone to meet some people, but yet he parks his car more than a mile away from the scene. Or do you believe that the suspects brought his car back and abandoned it at the cemetery?
No, so we have some information. We know that he drove to the scene and he may have been accompanied by another person. And our understanding is that second person may have driven the car then to where the car was located at Cemetery Beach. I can't really say an awful lot more about that at the moment, because we're still at the preliminary stages. So it's not that we think that the suspects drove the car from the scene of the shooting to where it was located opposite the fire station on Swift Lane, just adjacent to Cemetery Beach.
Are we at the stage where there's been any involvement with the National Security Council, that sort of thing at this point?
I'm in hourly contact with the governor, and I will be providing a briefing very early next week. So we have the systems are activated through the governor, who's briefing cabinet, and yes, there is obviously significant concern at government and cabinet level in terms of what is happening, and I am advising the governor on an almost hourly basis as it stands at the moment, or updating the governor, I suppose, is the correct terminology.
We do have another question from one of our viewers. They said the community has watched over the years the police botch many high-level profile cases. What is the police doing now to gain the public's confidence that would encourage them to come forward and put their life on the line?
Well, I suppose I would ask the person to look at the number of high-profile criminals that are serving long sentences in HMP Northwood as a result of very successful prosecutions. And the way we have learned to treat our witnesses, and the detective superintendent has told you that we go to great lengths to protect our witnesses. And this has been investigated by our most experienced detectives from our major incident room, major investigation team. So we're very alert to the fact that witnesses may feel vulnerable, and we will do everything in our power to provide protection, reassurance, trust and confidence for persons who are agreeable to coming forward. But there is also the anonymous channels in terms of being pursued for people who want or feel they would like to provide information. Some information, particularly on the location of guns, the movement of persons, where they might be located, where do persons go after the scene of a crime, from where do they leave before they commit the crime, who are they associating with, and how are they hiding low in the community.
Commissioner, just so that I'm clear, so this is now the second murder of the year?
This is murder number 2 for 2022.
Okay, that puts us right on line with 2021, where there were also 2 murders and an obvious increase in gun crime. Last week or on Wednesday, you said, you were stepping up armed patrols. In light of this, in light of the already increased armed patrols, is there anything else that can be done to curb what is obviously a rising gun crime?
We are deeply embedded in the community. They're now using all our available resources, speaking to any persons who are willing to speak to us. And only in the next few minutes, I and the command team will be meeting our firearms response unit to discuss our patrol strategies and what needs to be done. And again, that's a kind of an internal process, but the community reassurance is we will be putting all our available resources out on the street to provide that community reassurance and to be ready to confront and tackle these persons involved in this serious criminal activity en route to or leaving the scene of the commission of crime.
Commissioner, a bit over the top. But we've seen where several firearms have been intercepted at checkpoints. Is this something that your officers will be looking to roll out in the coming days?
We will use the full range of tactics that are available to us, but again, I go back to the point. It's this circular point I'm trying to make. You need assistance from the community who know who some of these people are and what they're doing, and to understand the gravity and the danger that they're placing persons in the community in. I think everyone grasps the seriousness of the situation that we're in at the moment. 2 murders. It's not Cayman. It's not what we understand of Cayman. And it's a small group of rogue people that are involved in this criminal activity. And as I said, it's very, I can say, un-Caymanian or non-Cayman activity that I've no doubt we will address and we will break down this group and dismantle them and disrupt them and prosecute them. But we do need assistance. Again, make this appeal to the community. Tell us where the guns are. Tell us, where the vehicles are. Or people hear things in the community. They're small communities.
So, gentlemen, just in case you're about to wrap up, I just wanted to see if there was anything Mr. Walton or Mr. Lansdowne wanted to add to what we've talked about this far.
Please.
I'm quite happy to say, as the Commissioner alluded to, we are restricted to rules of evidence. Your comments, Sandra, around releasing CCTV, we have to follow a strict hierarchy of process around identification of individuals. Witnesses, specific individuals, have to have the first opportunity to identify witnesses. We can't just open the doors and allow everybody to see images. We lose control of those images and people get contaminated. So we've got robust processes in place. We can't just break the rules to do that. So we do encourage people to come forward and give evidence. It's fine, please give us information if we can corroborate it other ways, but we need witnesses to give evidence and not protect these individuals. Commissioner alluded to one arrest for Monday night's murder last night. We arrested a female with that suspect for harbouring him, for assisting him. That female had been warned not to offer any aid or assistance to that individual because he was wanted. And when we caught him, he was with her. So people in the community are acting inappropriately and helping these criminals. That has got to stop. Please, everybody come forward, stop these criminals performing these acts and stand up, give evidence, and we will be able to make Cayman safe.
just to follow up on that point, if I may. So is this also a warning to other would-be aiders and abettors that if you are caught aiding and abetting, police will, the long arm of the law will come down on you?
We will try and prosecute people for assisting offenders. Yes, we will do that. When we circulate people as wanted, that is one of the caveats on it, that people are not allowed to assist and harbour offenders.
Yeah, it's a criminal offense already.
Yes.
It's a criminal offence and carries in it. So it's a criminal offence and carries in every penalty.
10 years in prison.
No, just really, just to re-emphasize the point about the following the rules of evidence. It's really that we have to follow the rules of evidence. There's nothing more we can do about it. Otherwise, we could find ourselves in a tenable situation later in court where there's a trial. If I may add just on the current situation, we've had 12 robberies thus far this year, of which we're confident 9 of those 12 are committed by the same group. Commissioners already highlighted at least this group of 6. The concern, as well as from just it's a small community. There are individuals out there who are perhaps assisting these individuals, and that could be enabling, whether it's by storage or by providing guns or by assisting with shelter. We saw that yesterday with a female who's actually been driving around one of these individuals. And it's important that those individuals understand what you're actually doing when you are enabling these individuals, either from storage of weapons, providing the provision of weapons. You're equally as culpable as these individuals. In fact, you may as well have been on the murder scene, because you've provided that gun that has killed Mr. Elliott on Monday night. You've provided that gun that has been involved in a series of robberies, or you stored that weapon that has been involved in that murder or those series of robberies. The reality is, as the commissioner said, there is no doubt an insatiable appetite for guns on this island. As small as it is, there's an insatiable appetite, and we need to really to nip that in the bud. I've said this before, and as long as individuals are out there that continue to enable persons who've got an appetite for guns, we will continue to see the sort of stuff. But we need to nip this in the bud. We've got a small group, and we're confident that as soon as we can achieve the evidence and meet the evidential threshold that we need, we can see, we'll see a lot in this type of action.
Thank you. I think we'll work out there.
For sure. Just invite if there's anything else, if there's any final questions, please. But like, we do need your assistance, and thank you for coming forward to kind of spread the message. But if there's anything else that we can assist with, just kind of ask us insofar as we can assist. We really have to get the right information out there. We can't be putting wrong information out. Are there any other? If not, we're very grateful for your attendance.
I'm just going to take my chances, actually, because I just don't feel like we can leave it hanging because of the ruling that came down from the court was it yesterday? That about this witness issue, because obviously Elmer Wright was removed from this jurisdiction in order to prevent his possible intimidation of witnesses, because we know that he was intimidating Ken Thomas during the trial. It was public. This isn't something hidden, it's public knowledge. It was recorded and reported during the trials. So we have this situation where the government has gone to quite significant lengths to remove the prisoners that they feel that are fueling crime still from jail and outside. And yet here we have this guy, and we also still have Shane Connor as the other person still in the jail. I mean, I just feel it can't not be addressed. I mean, you can say you don't want to address it, but it is an issue. So I just want to give you a chance to comment on it. And it's as simple as that.
I'm going to be quite definitive that it's not for discussion at the moment. For numerous reasons, it's not for discussion. Here, at least, and certainly not at the moment, the focus is on the murder that occurred in the early hours of this morning, and we're dealing with this is Thursday, the 28th of April, and then we're dealing with another murder that occurred on Monday, the 25th of April, and then we have a series of linked crimes and a group of people, a small group of people that are involved in serious criminal activity in the district. And the issue you're raising then, Wendy, is completely outside of that. It's tangential, and my sense is it's not for discussion today and not for conflation and what we're trying to deal with at the moment. So I know it's probably not what you wanted, but I don't think it's appropriate for today.
It's okay. I just want to make sure that you get the chance to comment, because obviously the story isn't posted today, you know, so it's in the public domain at the moment.
No, and I'm acutely aware of it, and it's,
Commissioner,
yeah.
and I completely understand what you're saying, and I mean, good on you, Wendy, that was the right point. Just to follow up on what Wendy had said, there's clearly a link between the prisons and outside gangs, and what we've seen is there are other prison officers who are actively smuggling in drugs to prisoners. There are 2 prison officers who are facing multiple charges for this. So a part of the question that must be asked is, what is the police doing to actively root out corruption within the uniformed groups that's helping to enable the criminal activity between gangsters within the cells and outside the cells?
Well, the answer to that is as much as we can, and we work very closely with our colleagues at HMP, and they work very closely with us in the sharing of information. And you're aware of the 2 successful prosecutions in terms of drugs that were seized at the prison, and they were joint collaborative investigation between prison and RCIPS. And we also then at a higher level have the Anti-Corruption Commission that assists in major investigations to root out corruption across the uniformed service, or indeed the wider public service.
Will there be any additional efforts in relation to these illegal gambling houses that people are aware of? It seems to be almost every barber shop that is involved in this type of activity.
Yeah, I mean, we are really concerned about illegal gambling and what it means. It looks at it, it seems to come, we think it's a kind of a 2-pronged approach. One is robbery and the other is extortion. So the idea of robbery and going in and taking the proceeds, or the other is extortion. If you don't pay some monies, then you're going to be subject of a robbery. So yes, they are over the place, and there's a lot of stuff happening at government level in terms of moves to address illegal gambling on the Cayman Islands, but that's been dealt with at governor and cabinet level at the moment.
Right.
We have had significant input to that over a long period of time.
Okay, let's wrap it up, yeah?
If you're all, I'd like you to be, if you're all happy with that, that's, thank you for joining us, and yeah.
Bob now,
And we'll do a kind of a media release then shortly then.
That's right.
We'll look after that. You all have the numbers and that for contact, and
yeah, we'll take it on the press release.
let's just check anything else from the idea or anything else from the super. No. Okay, so Superintendent Ebanks couldn't join us because he's dealing with another aspect of it, but he's very much involved in guiding the frontline operations in terms of what's going on the street and firearms response and community policing, but he's out dealing with another aspect of it at the moment.